Welcome to Dead Time with your host, Holly Faust.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Dead Time Tales. Tonight's guests, I have Craig and Paul. They're members of the Penn Ohio Cryptid Research team. They have over 120 plus years experience in the outdoors and 20 plus years experience in the crypto and paranormal fields. So let's give them both a big welcome. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hello, how you
Thanks
doing?
for having us.
Yep, and I love having crypto people. I'm on the down low, a big, huge cryptid fan. I've actually been doing a lot of research into Pennsylvania cryptids. My daughter is obsessed with the squonk. Uh, and I've had an obsession from a very young age with Raystown Ray.
Okay.
And yeah, and actually my daughter now lives in Huntington, PA. So she's like not far from there. So I keep telling her I'm coming up in the summer and we're going looking for Ray.
That rake is pretty creepy.
I have never actually been there. I've heard about it. Like I grew up in Northeast PA. So like of our lakes were like Lake Scranton, and then we had Lake Wallenpaupack, which was a big man-made lake. So, and then of course the smaller ones. I mean, we had one that wasn't too far from my home called Chapman Lake, and they did a lot of scuba diving practice for like the divers in, and I guess they said there were old stagecoaches and
Okay.
everything else at the bottom of the lake. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited that, she's living out there. Not only that she's also close to the Clifton,
Mhm.
which I know they have a lot of paranormal stuff that happens at the Clifton Theater. So I keep telling her I'm coming out and I'm
Yeah.
going to spend the night with her so we could go and check. So, can you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
You want to go first?
Well, I've been interested in cryptids and everything since I was a kid. Remember seeing Boggy Creek for the first time at 7 years old at a drive-in theater, and that hooked me. From that point forward, it's been, trying to find Bigfoot and everything else. Then in the 90s, I started a paranormal group and did that for about 10 years. And then one day I met Craig, my neighbor. Didn't realize he was into Bigfoot, and here we are. So we started going out together. So,
Isn't that pretty awesome how you don't even realize the people around you?
yep.
Because literally like a mile away from me, I have a pretty decent Bigfoot researcher. Like she does a festival and everything. And, she literally lives like not even a mile from my house. And she's lived here her entire life. And we only met like a year ago because someone told me to sign up for her festival. And now we've become like amazing friends. And, it's shocking because I always felt like an outcast in my community.
Yeah.
So when you find those people, because her husband is into the paranormal, and so when you find those people, you like get a connection, and you actually say, "Well, I'm not only the only weird one now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the only one sitting in the basement.
But yeah, and I love that because I do think like my interest in cryptids also came from the Mothman processes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I totally get that, like watching movies and then
Yep.
having that interest peak.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
And
my interest started at 12 years old. I was 12 years old when the Patterson Gimlin film come out, and I was hooked right away. I mean, I was 100% convinced it was real, and from that point on, I looked for every opportunity to learn about it. I mean, any In Search of and Monster Quest, any kind of anything that had to do with cryptids and Bigfoot. I was I couldn't wait. And so I did all this armchair research for years, and it was 8 years ago. Me and Paul, we've been neighbors for over 20 years.
Wow.
We didn't know we were both into Bigfoot and that. We were out talking, and Paul said something about the Bigfoot show that was on TV last night, and I said, yeah, I said I saw it too, and it was described as like 12 foot tall. So
Right.
I went in on the side of my house. We got a tape measure and put it up 12 foot and put a 5 foot across. And when you look at that, it's like, man alive, this thing is a giant. And that's what it would take, something like that, to pile drive these trees they find up in Alaska. With
Hmm.
falls out in the trees pounded into the tundra. You know, and that's what did it. And then Paul said, "Well, we ought to go out. We ought to." And Paul actually found where there were some sightings, and we went out. And the first night out, we had action. We saw eyes shine. We had a rock thrown at us, and I was hooked. And that was 8 years ago.
And that's how, like, I can totally understand that, because I've shared my experience a lot. Like, I live not far from a ghost town here in PA called Elvira. Well, I live between two. I live between Elvira and Centralia. Now, Elvira is literally, now everybody knows Centralia, but Elvira is a little lesser known. Like Centralia, there's nothing happening up there. I can attest to that. But Elvira reminded me very much of Point Pleasant. It's actually state game lands now. Well, part of it. The other part is a federal prison. But the majority of the town is actually state game lands now. But at one time, they had a dynamite factory there during the war. And they have those big bunkers
Right.
like you see in Point Pleasant that
Yeah,
are
right
meant
here.
to, yeah.
Yep.
And so we were there doing a paranormal investigation. And we had walked past one of the cemeteries and down this little dirt path, and we came upon one of these bunkers. And, I get the heebie jeebies really quick. And when I do, I've learned to trust myself and leave. So me and the guy that was the leader of the team at the time started walking back towards the car when we heard this like guttural, like, you know, horror. Like I can't even explain it. Just like a, and let me tell you, I was a big girl at that time. I was over 300 pounds, and I was the first one back to the car. And I have bad knees and a bad back.
Yeah.
I had never in my life heard that sound like that, and have never again. But then it was not long after that we were at the time we were with another paranormal investigator, John Sable, who does a lot with haunted mines and stuff. And we found out from them that there had actually been Bigfoot sightings back there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure that's what I heard, because it got so still in those woods. And all I heard was this guttural, like, I don't even know, like, I can't even describe it. It just elicited fear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I ran the fastest I ever ran in my entire life.
Yep. When it goes dead silent like that in the woods, it's there.
That's a predators there.
Yep.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, I know, like, I'm half indigenous. So, like, I've heard all the stories about the Windy Boy and, all the flesh pedestrians and all of that. And they're a big part of our lore. And so isn't, Sasquatch. They're part of our stories. So it's just like, but that one was one I never really had that innate fear of, because, I mean, we're really pushed with all the other ones.
Yeah.
And, we don't, like I said, we don't even say the names because the names give them power. And so, yeah, I mean, did you guys ever encounter like things like that before when you've been out?
We have.
Oh yeah.
The creepiest thing I've personally ever experienced in our outings, in our research. The one area we investigate, we'll go in like during the day and we look around for evidence and we set our cameras up, and then we'll stay for an investigation for the night. And then, but this patch of woods we were in, I'm going to be 70 years old. I've been hunting since I've been a young kid. I've been fishing. I've been in the woods my whole life, and I've never seen this. All through this woods, there must have been 300-400 sticks, maybe 5 foot, 6 foot, 4 foot high, shoved down in the ground, all through this patch of woods. I've never seen that. So we're right next to that patch of woods. We got our recorders and our FLIRs and all that out. And now Paul's hearing is a little bit better than mine. And Paul says, now it's pitch black. I mean, you can't see your hand in front of your face. And we're in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around. All of a sudden, Paul says, I'm telling you what, he says, I know I'm hearing a kid giggling. Now, there should be no kid giggling in the woods. where we were at. And if there was a kid in the woods, he wouldn't be giggling; he'd be crying.
Right,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? And I was like, what? And sure enough, you could hear, because we have these game ears, and I turned them on. You could
Mhm.
hear, like, it sounded like kids giggling in this woods.
Yeah.
I was pretty concerned over that.
Now, see, me as being, mainly into the paranormal, like that reminds me all a la Blair Witch. At that point, I would be freaking out, looking, especially after the sticks. Like that was my biggest fear in life was the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
And like I live near the forest.
Yeah.
And after that movie came out, I wouldn't go up to burn my trash alone. Because and I still don't, because like, well, we've had sightings.
Yeah.
Like my friends that are researchers, are tracking, I think they said
Mhm.
like 2 around our area. And I'll tell them constantly, like, I don't like to be up behind my house at night in the dark, because it literally feels like coming from the forest, someone is watching me.
Yeah.
And I'm a big tough paranormal investigator, but I have fight or flight response that works pretty darn good, and most of the time it means I couldn't run for years.
We
Now
only
I can
ran
run
once.
again.
We only ran once. The first time they threw the rock at us.
Right.
We jumped. We didn't run, but we were like, you know what? When they start throwing rocks, I think they want you to leave. And
Yeah, now see, I'm a runner, so
we packed our stuff up and we walked out. But after that, we made up our mind. We're not running no more.
We've since decided.
yeah, and that was like always been my question. Are they throwing rocks because they want you to leave, or are they throwing rocks to let you know they're there?
I think it's because they
Yeah.
want you to leave the area. Like,
Okay, because yeah, I've always wondered that, because how are they? I'm always a questioner, and I think that's why I got involved in this, because I displayed psychic abilities as a young child. So I was always questioning things, because I didn't know why I did what I did, and what I saw. And yeah, I was told for the longest time I was possessed. So I had no clue. And growing up in that, I always learned to question, and that's something that I still do. Like, are they throwing stuff at us because, they want us to know they're there, or are they growling because, like, how do we know, like, how they want us to know that they're there and present?
wow,
Your guess is as good as ours.
yeah.
We don't know the answer to that.
I don't know if they want you to know they're there.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Are they just
They
get
do
out of here,
expose
this is our
themselves,
space?
though. They
Yeah.
do sneak up on you. That's we have more action by going in when we set up. We'll make a couple noises right before dark, and then we just go quiet. And we have more responses like that, because when you pull up, you're in their house.
Right.
They know you're there. You're not going to sneak up on one. So we're just sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, stuff. Now it don't have. It's like fishing and hunting. That's what they call it, hunting and fishing.
Right.
It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it happens quick and unexpectedly. And you just got to be ready.
Yeah. Well, no, I can attest to that, because, like, I always tell people like only see the paranormal through the lens of the media. And they're always like, "Oh, you must have so much fun." I'm like, "Dude, I've gone to locations where I've sat for 2 days and nothing has happened."
Oh yeah, we've gone.
No-
We've gone a whole year and nothing.
Now, see, that hasn't happened to us, because we do a lot of historical places, so
Right.
we usually get a lot. But there are places that we've gone to. Like, I was at Eastern State Penitentiary.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like, everybody said, "Oh, that place is so hot." We were there
Yeah.
2 nights, nothing.
Yeah, I can believe that. I mean, we go out. We've had, like he said, we had a season we went out,
nothing
all season long. So we assume they moved on that season or chose a different area, but we haven't had that happen again.
Yeah, that 1 year we
been a couple years now. So
the whole year we didn't have not. Now we during the winter. We live in Northwest PA. It's cold.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Pittsburgh. My daughter was a patient out there for a year.
We're north of Pittsburgh too.
Okay.
We're about an hour from Lake Erie.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
So
it
we
gets
get,
very
you know, I
cold up
mean,
there.
it gets cold, you know,
Yep.
and
This is a hobby.
this is a
It's not
hobby.
a job.
You know, it's not a
Yeah,
job.
and that's what I tell people too.
Yeah,
My stuff is a hobby. Yeah, there was a period of time where it's like a job for me because I'm a stay-at-home mom.
yeah,
I have nothing better to do with my time except write books and research. So
yeah.
Right.
for me, I had that opportunity that most people don't have. And I did travel for years, like 15 years. I traveled all over with my former team.
Yeah.
But now since COVID, I've really taken a step back and gotten more into the education and working teaching the younger people.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I can attest that, like, it's not, I tell people all the time, it's not the giggles and the craziness you see on TV. It can be like, I've gone to locations where I've been sitting there and I fall asleep, like in a prison.
Yeah.
They'll come and find me and there I am sleeping on the floor. What's going on? Absolutely nothing.
Yep.
They ain't biting. Now, I do know we had investigated years ago at Gettysburg. Now, I go there a lot because it's close for me. But we were doing paranormal stuff. Now, we had track cams that we stick in the cannons out on the wheat field because then that way nobody can see them. Like, we get a lot of pictures of people that are like out there touring and they go up to the cannon and it snaps. But one picture that we got that always intrigued me was we were out in the pitch black. I don't know if you've ever been in the wheat field in Gettysburg, but that's in like a pitch black area at night.
Yeah.
There's nothing really around it, no artificial light, and all we could see were these two almost red eyes looking back at us.
We've seen that.
Yeah.
And then we were told, I can't even remember who, that they had actually had somewhat sightings of Wendy boys out in that area.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, huh, is that what that is? And then, of course, me being the person I am, I try to get in contact with my cousins and whatnot. They're like, well, you're just lucky you're alive. And I'm like, okay, I'm never going there again.
Yeah.
No, we have this one spot we go to, and it's just this one spot. We have all this strange stuff happens on this spot. Now we have documented Bigfoot activity there. We've had rocks thrown at us. We've had we have recorded wood knocks.
Tree
We
ripped down.
we had a tree ripped down in front of us, but also we put cameras out, and we always put a game trail camera facing the other game trail camera, mainly for the reason that if somebody steals our game trail camera, we have an idea who took our camera.
Right.
But it turns out 2 times now this has happened to us in this one spot. 2 times we've had the camera on the camera, and the first time it happened, you see these two glowing like orbs off in the distance, and then the next picture, they turn into silhouettes. There's two glowing, and they're not glowing out; they're glowing from within. And then the third picture is standing right in front of you, right in front of the camera, is these two silhouettes just standing there, just glowing. And then there was 150 blank pictures, and the other camera that was facing this camera that should have caught whatever was making this had a picture of Paul turning the camera on and a picture of Paul turning the camera off.
Wow.
We have it on our Facebook page in our photos. You could
I'll definitely go check that out because I love looking at that kind of stuff. It is, like I always say, the paranormal encompasses more than just ghosts and spirits. We encompass, cryptozoological. We encompass,
Yes.
alien research. We encompass, even psi and ESP and all this other stuff. And so many people just want to look at it as one thing or another. Me, I've always been a person that I branch out, because I just have that interest in it all. Like if it was like my husband can tell stories about like seeing flying objects in the air and floating out his window when he was a child.
Yeah.
And so that's always been a big joke in our family because I'm the ghost lady and he's the alien man. So now we just need the kids to get into cryptids and we're all around, a full team.
Yeah. We started out just Bigfoot. That's all we were out there for. And I had done the paranormal for like 10 years. So when we were out there and this other weird stuff started happening, like you said, it just bleeds.
Yeah,
It just overlaps and bleeds into so many different areas,
it
alien and
really
UFO,
does.
the paranormal and the Bigfoot, the cryptid side. It all just kind of falls together in a lot of different ways. So it's hard to narrow down and say that, yes, Bigfoot's flesh and blood and doesn't have any magical powers or nothing like that. But I can't say that
I can't
because
either.
I don't know.
And me as an indigenous person, I'm like, why can't it be all of the above? Because
You're right.
that's our belief
Could
system,
very
is
well
that
be.
there are those, because it is our lore and our stories. And we have that belief that it's something sent from creator, that's a flesh and blood, that has all of these powers. And so for us, like, and that's what I say to people all the time, I don't know what these things are. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm talking to human spirits, or what Christians call demons, or any of that. All I know is that I'm communicating with something,
Right, right.
and and for all I know, could just be energy.
Yeah,
We, we started, like Paul said, we started out, just, we thought we were just looking for a primitive ape,
Right.
and I'm 100% convinced that I don't know what this thing is. Because for me, for me, if it was just a flesh and blood uh, monkey, I think we'd have had him by now. We would have
Oh,
had more evidence. We would have had something. This stuff is going to. I'll tell you another thing that happened in this spot. We're sitting now. We're a mile and a half into the woods, one way down an old dirt road. There's, there's, there. I mean, it's pitch black. It's late at night. All of a
dead end.
sudden, yeah. All of a sudden, we're sitting there, and this field just starts lighting up, and then it dims
wow.
back down, and then it lights back up, and then it dims back down, and then we. You ever see a documentary like where they're harvesting like almonds, and they got this big machine that wraps around the tree and shakes this tree like
Oh, but I
crazy?
kind of know what you're talking about. I live in a farming area, so we get weird things like that happening around here all the time.
Well, one tree, about 25 yards from us, just started shaking. Like, and then all our equipment starts shutting down, and then we start seeing shadows moving around. And Paul happened to take a picture. He got some rapid fire picture, and he caught one, and you could actually see a face in this shadow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And see, I love that stuff, because that's the stuff you can show to people, and you're like, okay, explain to me what this is then. You
We
don't
don't know.
believe? Tell me what this is. Because I have evidence that I've argued with people, on the battlefield at night. Like, I have one that's a green sheen of like an aura that looks almost like a horse out in the middle of the battlefield. And we were at the Battlefield Bed and Breakfast, which is one of the privately owned resorts, well, a bed and breakfast that are on the battlefield, that you can go like hunting around, and it bumps right up to the national park. And taking that picture along a stream, and it looks just like an aura of a horse. And I have that somewhere on my Facebook.
nice.
And people will say, "Oh, it's just headlights," and I'm like, "Green,
Yeah,
Yeah,
green."
yeah. There was no headlights where we were at.
And that's what I said. I'm literally in the middle of a battlefield. There's nothing.
right.
So
It is
please
kind of
tell
a
me
weird.
how those are headlights when all that's around me is battlefield.
Yep. Yeah, we've captured orbs in the woods on trail cameras. There's no explanation for that kind of stuff. None. There's no people. There's no lights from these are self-moving, self-guided white orbs. And that stuff's on our Facebook page as well. So,
And the other camera didn't catch those those
yeah,
three orbs either. That we.
And that's how I always tell people, you want to know the difference between real orbs and not real, like dust and stuff like that.
yeah,
Have two cameras,
That's what
because
we got.
if one catches them and the other one doesn't, then there's obviously something going on there that
Yeah.
is beyond explanation, because
Two
there's no
different times
reason
that
why two
happened.
cameras shouldn't catch the same stuff.
Right.
Especially when they're self-illuminated and they're not
Right.
putting off light to light the area, but they themselves are lit. You know what?
Oh yeah, I understand. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the UFO ranch out in
Yes.
Washington. That's kind of stuff happens there all the time.
Yep.
And I mean, we were in West Virginia. We were up in the middle of the no, I don't even know where we were. I felt like I was in deliverance country. And like there was no artificial light, and we were just laying on the ground looking at the sky, looking at the stars, using like our little phone apps that tell you where the constellations are. And you could literally watch things
Yep.
that were moving from like star to star to star to, and it was like an assembly line of sorts that
Oh yeah.
these lights were shooting to. And I'm like, please explain to me what that is. And I tell the people all the time, what is it? I have no idea. Like,
No.
I've seen maps that show a correlation between cryptid sightings, paranormal activity, and alien sightings, all within
You
a
want to
very
add?
confined region.
You can add one more thing to that: cave systems. All the cave
Mm.
systems line up with all the UFO, the Bigfoot, all that.
I have never thought of that. Now, here it would
Does.
probably be mines.
Yep. It lines up with the cave systems across the United States. It's
That's
bizarre.
that's crazy.
Really bizarre.
I have never heard that theory though with the cave systems. I'm definitely going to look at that, because like my research has always led to the high correlation between these three things all happening in a relatively close area to each other. Men in Black sightings, alien sightings. All of these things are happening. Like if you look at Point Pleasant,
Oh yeah.
you had Men in Black, you had Mothman, you had alien sightings, you had the collapse of the Silver Bridge, and all of this extreme paranormal stuff all happening within that small little community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not a big community if you've ever
No, it's
been
not.
there. It's
I've
not very
been
big.
there. I was
Yeah,
there
because
for the
I'm the freak
festival.
that, yeah, I went in the off season, and we went to the, what is it, the Lowe's Hotel right
Yeah.
across from the museum, because that
Yeah.
has high paranormal activity.
Yeah.
But I had to go and get Mothman pizza,
Oh,
and touch the shiny hiney.
oh yeah.
I have a magnet that says I was in Point Pleasant to touch the shiny hiney. So yeah, and it was during, we were still masking from COVID.
Oh
So,
yeah.
we were doing West Virginia Penitentiary as a weekend trip. And I'm like, oh, we're only what, 1-2 hours away from Point Pleasant. We have to go.
Yeah.
So,
It is. It's something to see. That big Mothman statue and stuff. It is.
yep. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I laugh about, because when people see the picture, we're all wearing our masks with Mothman. So,
One interesting note with where we have all this strange stuff happening too. We knew there was a a old Indian burial ground that was there, and what happened was it was the Seneca Indian tribe,
yeah, that makes sense. That's their area.
and they came down with they dammed this area up, and they came down and they moved a lot of the graves, and we didn't know exactly where it was. Well, just this past year we know now that it was no more, as the crow flies, about 3 miles away from where we're having all this crazy
And
stuff.
and that's pretty interesting too, because my area was very integrated with the Susquehannock and the Lenape tribes, and the town that's near the river.
It,
Those homes that all go where it was literally called Fort Augusta back in the colonial days have so much activity. And we tell people all the time that think about where you are, because at the time that this area was being colonized, they didn't care where they built their homes. They didn't care if there were burial grounds. They didn't know anything about the burial
They
grounds at
didn't
the
even know
time.
they were there. Yeah.
Right. So, we have layers in the paranormal community of the hauntings, where it goes all the way back to the indigenous tribes. And I tell people all the time, give tobacco offerings and to the ancestors and apologize.
Yeah.
It's the quickest way to get rid of that stuff. But and it is, I see that correlation too, like all up and down. Because when you think about it, the stories of the Squatch and these other things, they have predated America as we know it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So these are things that have been seen and involved in the lore of like the original inhabitants of the land.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Thousands.
yes, like I said, some of them we were put the fear of in, you
Oh yeah.
know, and like you hear Wendy Boy and you got to go, because we have, I mean, I don't know if you are familiar with the native lore,
Right.
but there
Oh,
is
Seneca stuff.
a psychosis that's attributed to it.
Yeah.
And actually, there was a case of like a man up in Canada that went on a murderous rampage that
Yeah.
many of the indigenous people attribute to this psychosis.
Yeah.
And so like I just, to us, like we hear people all the time, out there saying the name, and I was doing it in the beginning until one of my native friends said to me, "Oh, you need to stop saying that on air." And I'm like, okay. I don't want no trouble. I don't need nothing coming here to my house. But so it's just like when I go to festivals, I'll be like, as soon as I hear it, I run the other way because I'm like, no, 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 I don't need that, man.
Yeah.
But and I'm learning like about like the Alba Twitch.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I can't remember what part of PA that it's like most associated with.
They have a festival with that.
Yes, well, they have a Squonk festival too
Yeah, they do.
in Altoona.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
daughter informed me. My daughter's obsessed with the squonk. Like I had never heard of the squonk until last year, and we were at the Cryptid and Bigfoot Festival that we have here in Central PA, and
He's the one that hangs out in the hemlock forest.
cries.
Yeah.
My daughter said he cries because he's so ugly, and I'm like, that is so mean. But yeah, so she actually was the one who got into it. So when she moved out to Huntington, I was like, oh, you're by Raystown.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, what does that mean? And so I shared with her the whole story, because my dad was Scotch Irish, so I'm a Nessie girl.
Yeah.
My dream is to go and find Nessie.
Oh, yeah.
And I have little stuffed Nessies that I take everywhere. So when we're at a lake, I'll literally post a picture of Nessie sitting at the lake, and I'll be like, I found Nessie. So,
Yeah, we just recently started doing research into Dogman. There's been a couple sightings in this area in the last couple years.
oh wow.
Some of the strange things that have been happening to us out at that spot. If you dig into it, a lot of that weirdness follows Dogman. So we've been looking.
And I'm learning so
The
much
Seneca
about the
actually
cryptids.
have a creature that pretty much is a dog man. It's called Mawagwi or Mawaghi, something like that. I'm not
Well, indigenous languages are not easy. I'm actually learning Lakota right now, which is my tribe, and I can testify it is one of the hardest languages. I'm learning German quicker than I'm learning Lakota, and I've been studying it for
Oh,
5 years.
yeah. Yeah, it's a rough, but just being so close to the burial ground and everything else. And the one night we we were sitting there. We had got there in the daytime, did our normal daytime look around and all that kind of stuff. Didn't see nothing, didn't smell anything, nothing like that. About 10:30, 11 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
started smelling something dead, rotten,
Oh,
just rotten meat smell. And then it would leave, and then it would come back again. So we had gotten up and we was walking around a little ways, looking around and stuff. And we had a couple Jeeps parked back in about 20 yards from us where we were standing. And I was standing looking back at the Jeeps, and I saw this huge black mass go from the Jeeps into the woods that was in front of us. I turned we have another guy that goes with us. He can't be here. I turned to slap him to say, "Did you see that?" And he had said, "I see it, I see it." And Craig was too far away from me. I couldn't get him, but he didn't see it. And it should have, when it went through them woods that it went into, it should have come out right in front of Craig. Well, it never came back out. And it made no noise, no nothing. Just smelled like death. And
Oh
then
my goodness.
it was gone. But
Yeah, that would be me running again.
it was close to 10 foot tall.
Oh
And
my
this
goodness.
huge black mass.
And all our equipment shut down.
Yeah.
Everything shut down. Everything
Yeah,
shut down.
and as a paranormal investigator, to us, that's usually like when something like that happens, we're always like, well, there's something going on here because
Yep.
Gettysburg, the triangular field.
Yep.
You can never get equipment to work there, and I've proven it on occasion. Every occasion I go. This last time we were there and walking in, something literally like came under and swept my feet out from under me.
Good.
And like they said, the girl behind me literally had it on video, and she could hear me say, "Well, I guess I'm not meant to go down there," because I turned around and walked right back out.
Yeah.
I'm like, if something's trying to take my feet out from underneath me, I don't belong down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, I know PA like has a lot of rich history itself with different types of creatures, and I'm learning that like through a lot of my research, because for years it was always like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, which I just think is a Arctic form of a Squatch, and and that's my opinion. I don't know if it's factual. Maybe someday we'll meet them and get to ask them. Who knows? But that's my goal. Like, I want to meet one. I want to interview you. Come on my show. Yeah, I leave my card, for them everywhere. I left my card for Mothman. It's just my thing. I'm like, if you want people to know about who you are, come see me. I'll put you on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated when I'm finding out, because like my former paranormal team, we had a web server that was kind of to bring people together because he was involved with like para entertainment. So it's for a lot of his fans. And one of the things that we had was a cryptozoological club.
Yeah.
So part of that club was doing like research. And I mean, I went all the way back to like McFarlane's bear, doing research on cryptids because I wanted to know, like, where did all this start? I know a lot of it is native lore, but where did it start, like, for us? And finding that story, and I guess there was like something at the Smithsonian at one time that involved McFarlane's bear, and I'm like, whoa, I've been to the Smithsonian, I ain't ever seen that.
And they'll tell you they don't have it.
Exactly. And that's like the government for Area 51, nothing's there.
Yep.
Really? Then why y'all threatening to arrest us when we wanted to storm it?
Yeah.
Why are you taking down our websites because we want to go attack the Area 51? Like, tell me, if there's nothing there,
Right.
they're like, I just, it astonishes me because my mother lived in Arizona, and when he was bringing her home, literally the path that it took them, they were driving, when she was moving back to PA, it went right through right around Area 51. And I was like so mad because he wouldn't stop.
Oh.
Because for whatever odd reason, it snowed near Area 51. Go figure.
Even to see the mailbox.
Right. But right in like the middle of the desert, it snowed.
Yeah.
And he said when it snows down there, everything stops. It was only, he said, not even an inch, but nobody knew how to drive in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was like, man, that, like, because I kept watching him on the map, and I'm like, you're right by Area 51. Go, go, go. He's like, I can't. I have your mom and her 2 dogs.
Yeah, even just to get a picture of the mailbox.
Yeah, but I think he tries to avoid, because I know up here, they started having a festival called the Carbondalian, because it was actually in 1974 in November. It was 1 month before I was born. There's a UFO crash. And they claim it wasn't a UFO. They claim it was a truck that ran into the lake, or a lantern that fell off of the back of a train.
Right.
But my great-grandmother lived back there, and she attested to the day she died that lights from a car and lights from a lantern would not be glowing underwater.
No,
Yeah.
And why would they take it off on a flatbed tow truck covered?
exactly. Well, it's like
So,
iceberg. Catch
and that's,
deal.
and I said I was predisposed to this interest because here's my mom, almost 9 months pregnant with me, climbing that mountain to go find the UFO.
Yeah. They put the
So,
bug in you early.
yeah, I said I had no chance. But then when I got involved with the ghost side of things, everybody thought I was evil. I can't win. Maybe I should have, went after aliens or something. I
Yeah,
don't know, but I couldn't figure it out. But
that's what's
now,
happening.
so
Yeah.
you guys have been researching Dogman.
Yeah.
We just
And,
started. We just found out about these sightings.
yeah, I don't even know
in the
much
last year.
about Dogman, so
Yeah.
that's what I
We've
like.
been
That's
talking
something
with
new for me.
Other researchers that are big dog men. That's what they.
Yeah, I see them on Facebook once in a while, like pages that'll say like Dogman researcher, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And I think that's what piqued my interest. But are there any other cryptids that you guys find yourself going out in search of?
Just no. We've seen UFOs.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
You
that
know,
bled right into UFOs, and people now give us UFO reports. So
that's awesome too, because
Yeah.
like that's the one, and I don't know why they're so hard to talk to. Like members of MUFON and the alien researchers,
I
they don't want
know.
to. They don't want to talk on podcasts. I'm like, what?
They don't want to share the data,
You're
which
right.
is
Right? They don't want to
right.
share anything. Like me and the paranormal, I'm always posting my crap.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, hey, go ahead and debunk me or come up with another theory because we're only working on hypotheses.
Yep. Everything
None
on
of us has
Facebook,
the answers.
everything on our Facebook we actually captured. We're not saying that it's Bigfoot. We're not saying that it's paranormal. You look at it and you tell us what it is. So we.
And I like that because I was a team that I interviewed not too long ago for, they have a show on Paraflex.
Yeah.
And they said, we share our evidence. We don't tell you your thoughts should be. We share what we find and we leave it up to our viewers to come up with their own answers.
That's exactly how we feel about it.
And that's how I am.
We're just investigators. We're not the scientists to figure it out. We'll gather.
No, I'm not a parapsychologist, although I've taken classes at the Rhine and classes with the Kostler unit in Edinburgh. I'm still not. I don't have a degree in parapsychology. I have a degree in law.
Right.
So there's no science there
and stuff. Yep. So
yeah, I don't math. So if it involves math, which those kind of things, sciencey things do, I need people that can math to be with me to figure that stuff out. Like I don't read a ruler. I have dyscalculia and dyslexia. So I read words backwards and I don't read a ruler. So I need people that can because I know especially with Bigfoot research, you measure these things. So that's what I have my husband for because he knows how to do all that stuff.
Yep.
We've found footprints. We've got cast of footprints.
And I have some of those that I'm going to be sharing. When I post, I'm going to be putting them on my thumbnail for YouTube. Because I find them fascinating, or the casts. Because
the casts we have too, you can see they walk like on a tightrope. They don't walk the same way we do.
We do side to side. They walk.
Yeah, they walk like they're walking on a tightrope. And there's a picture of the three, and the next one walked right into the river. And this was in the end of April. I mean, it was there was just a couple days before there was half a foot of snow on the ground.
Right yeah, it's cold right now.
Yeah. Right above them, about 150 feet up.
Yeah.
There's a giant tree structure, a big giant A-frame.
Oh wow!
Everything was carried in and set up there.
And that fascinates me because there's the thought process that maybe they're not intelligent, but when they can do things like that, there's intelligence.
Well, we haven't found one yet, so they're intelligent enough to.
They are intelligent enough that know that they're hidden for however many decades, thousands and thousands of years.
That's why I said if it was just a dumb monkey, we'd have found him. There's something more. There's something more going on than just that.
Oh, and I totally agree with that because, it's like like you had said, the network system of caves that, they can probably, who knows if they're traveling amongst them. Like, I don't know. Now I want to go sit in my backyard and see what's staring at me at night when I'm up there.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Because
just,
it gets dead quiet. We'll be up there sitting, and like, the forest has all kinds
oh
of
yeah.
sounds. And it out of nowhere, like we'll be sitting around the fire up there, and it just will get dead still. Not a wind and not a sound.
Yep.
That's
And
a
then
sign of a predator.
Yep.
I will literally look at my children and I will say, that is my cue to go to bed.
Nah. That's what you need to say.
That's when the action's getting ready to start.
Yep.
Right. But see, hey, I will admit I am the most and I think it's because of the experiences that I've had in the paranormal, because I've been knocked
Yeah.
down, I've been scratched, I've been jumped, I've gone through a lot, and I've learned when I get this innate feeling
Yeah.
that I have to leave.
Right.
Because that's my body's natural mechanism telling me to protect myself.
Yeah.
Like we were at, what is that, Mansfield Reformatory, the Ohio Penn.
Yeah.
And we were up in the chapel and I could smell burning flesh.
Really?
And literally started walking out of the chapel, and I felt something grab and like hold onto my shirt. And I looked and there's nobody there. And I flew, like they didn't even realize it. Before I knew it, I was downstairs in the safe room, and they were all still up there at the chapel.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's the story of my life. That's what I was earlier. I was looking down at my phone because I had to shut my ringer off because my kids were texting back and forth in a group chat.
Yeah.
Well, we're all video gamers, and
Oh
Fortnite,
yeah.
if you're familiar with Fortnite, they came out with a new
Oh,
pass
yes.
today. And
Oh
it's like their favorite singer. So they're all going back and forth about, the skins and I'm like, because I Fortnite too. That's like my hobby. So, but yeah, so I was like, oh, I better turn that off because I could hear it pinging. But a lot of times my mic doesn't pick it up.
I was going to turn that off too, and I forgot.
I don't mind. I know the people that watch don't mind because they're just regular people like us.
That's
You
what
know?
we are. We're just
I know I get more subscribers every week, so I must be doing something right.
we're just a couple of rednecks from a little town with only one red light.
Hey, I tell everybody I'm an Appalachian through and through.
Yeah.
Except I'm a Valley girl Appalachian. We're better than the Californian Valley girls.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we say yuns and red up and pop back here.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. And here we're all about Hobart and y'all and yins. We do use guys.
Yeah.
Up in the Scranton area where I'm from, we have our own language called Hanabonics. And like it's when I get with my friends from up in that area, like none of my other friends from outside of that area can understand us. We literally had to make a dictionary for them.
G yet?
Yep, no Jew.
No.
A couple two tree. There ain't no H's. We have a town called Troop. It's spelled THROOP, but we don't pronounce the H.
No.
So yeah, I know all about that. And like I said, my daughter was a patient at Pittsburgh Children's Hospital, and we spent months there. And so I got very familiar with the dialect and up in that area. And we come up to Erie once in a while for a couple of comic book conventions.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the one we go to is right on the lake, and it's absolutely, I love it up there. That's besides Savannah, Georgia, and Lilydale, New York, I think I would love to live off Lake Erie.
Yeah, Lake Erie's nice.
Yeah. Lilydale is mostly because they have an old growth forest, untouched old growth forest, trees that some people have never seen in their lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I'm always obsessed with it up there.
Kind of like the places that we go to investigate. Some of the trees are just,
they're huge, the biggest trees you ever wanted to see in your life.
Oh yeah, they're truly like I know my friend that does a lot of Bigfoot hunting. They go up to like the Allegheny National Forest and places like that, and like I want to tag along because I'm really interested in seeing this, but at the same time, I'm a paranormal investigator. we don't like to sleep in the woods.
Yeah.
We don't like to sleep in tents. We want beds or, or floors or something
Yeah.
warm. So,
Yep.
we're spoiled. I used to carry an air mattress around with me so that when we were at haunted locations, I could pop it out and sleep.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't sleep. We stay up. We do the night.
Yeah, well, yeah, we stay up like usually 4 or 5 a.m. is when we start turning in, but then we're back up again at like 10 or 11.
Oh yeah.
We drink lots of coffee, which I'm no longer allowed to drink because the hole in my stomach. So
Oh,
it's so upsetting. I'm like, I will drink coffee again. Because it's very hard when I'm so tired right now because I'm used to like 1 or 2 cups a week.
Yep.
And to go to nothing, it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so. But now, do you guys have anything coming up that, to make people aware of or to look out for?
We're gonna start our investigation off this year. We just found out where this Indian cemetery was. We're gonna heavily camera trap this area. That's our
Oh.
and then we'll go to our other plans too. But
Yeah.
I'd be interested, like not only as on a cryptid standpoint, but on a paranormal aspect of seeing,
Yeah.
because the burial grounds I know, in West Virginia in Moundsville, right across from the West Virginia State Penn is a gigantic mound. Now they claim everything from that mound has been excavated and taken away. But
Right.
do we really know that? Because when
that's
they dated that area, that dates way back to when a lot of those bones and stuff could have been,
right.
returned back to the earth. So did they
Yes.
really get rid of it all?
That's
Yeah,
what we don't know.
There's no way. There's no.
And
That's
and when you associate the things that happen in the pen itself,
yeah.
like, and that's right there. Like you get up to the top of that mound and you're literally looking right down at the front
Yeah.
doors of the pen.
Yep. Yep. There's a
And
lot of energy there. A lot
oh,
of
totally, totally. I don't even like prisons, but that place keeps drawing me back.
yeah.
Yeah, and the Senecas, when they put this reservoir in, the Army Corps of Engineers contacted them, and they came down and took all the remains that they knew of. But like you said, you don't know.
No, because you think how many thousands of years were they here
Right.
before colonial people
Yeah.
came?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you think, like, people will say, well, and this whole country at one point or another was native land. So
Yeah.
we don't know, like, not all tribes practiced mound burials.
No.
A lot of them practice burials by burning
Yeah.
Yeah.
and things like that. So we don't know what's left behind in areas where people are building homes, building parks, building schools. We don't know.
Yep.
So like and that's what I tell people. There's so many aspects to the paranormal that are just layers upon layers of history, and trying to peel away at that to getting to the oldest layer is impossible.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
But I'll definitely, and I will be sharing a link to your Facebook page for all of my people that follow me to check out. If you have any other links that you want to share, or anything, you could shoot them my way, and I'll throw them
Everything's
up.
right there. There is a link on the page for
Mhm.
a YouTube video where we captured a string of whistles back and forth between Craig and what we believe to be a Sasquatch. Probably some of the best whistle recordings that
I'm gonna have to go listen to that
ever
because
listened
I
to.
love that.
There's
So,
18 that we caught.
yeah.
That
We could hear this thing just crashing around us as it's whistling back and forth with Craig. So
and we were in the middle of nowhere. There was we saw one person in the whole time we were there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And I see, I like that because a lot of times, in our investigative work, we're sharing spaces with other people.
yep.
And, I think we can get so many amazing things happening when, like I found in the paranormal, when we sit back and just live,
Yeah.
whether we're sitting chit chatting about our lives, chit chatting about we
That's what we
get
do.
so many amazing EVPs. We were at a location up in New York State where we were just in the prison and we were in the back room, which was right off of solitary.
Mm-hmm.
We were having conversation, but we all had our recorders on. And you could hear when we would listen back, someone answering us.
Yeah.
Like someone saying, like, what are you doing? And this man answering back saying, well, nothing really. And, or I'm right here. And I'm like,
Oh,
and they were like class A EVPs. And it was just us having everyday conversation, not even walking around the building yet.
that's when we get most of our action out in the woods, is when we're just sitting and talking, just not banging on trees or anything like that. And
Thank goodness. That was the first time I ever seen people doing that. We were having a paranormal camp down in North Carolina, and we took people out into the forest, and then there was this clearing at the end. Now, I'm a very nature-based, I'm an animist, and so I believe everything has a soul. And
yeah,
these two young boys that were filmmakers there, all of a sudden they start banging on trees.
yeah,
If you want to see some people have a heart attack, because at that point we could hear everything wake up in that forest
yeah,
and nothing was right
yeah.
the rest of the night. Like we even encountered, I don't know if you're familiar with like willow wisps, but
Oh,
wisps they call them. We even encountered at that point, those were flying around,
yeah.
taking people like the poor one old lady was following one and she was going right towards the lake.
Oh,
And
geez.
we're all like trying to, and then my other friend was following, like she didn't she lost time and space and everything around her because she literally started walking deep into the forest following this wisp.
Yeah.
And it took someone coming up and touching her to come out of the trance that she was in. We're like screaming, don't bang on the trees. If it's dead on the ground, that's one thing. But if you're like knocking on a living tree, man, you're asking for trouble. It's scary when, like, especially when you're in tune to nature.
Yeah.
And that's why I think my fight or flight response comes in, because I am so in tune with the world around me that I automatically hear when there's a change. Like I said, when things go dead silent
Yes.
and the wind doesn't even blow, to me, that's a symbol of danger.
Oh no. See, that's when it's just getting warmed up.
Not,
Yeah.
not to me, man.
And now we have that one spot we go where we have all this stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big area, but the one end we call it the dark end. That's our
Okay.
code name for it because it is dark down there. It's so thick, the canopy is so thick. Even when the moon's shining, you can't see. It's just dark. But sometimes when we're down there and we all get it at the same time, it's like this feeling of just like,
Oh,
man, something's looking at us,
Yeah,
something.
I can understand that feeling because I get that a lot where we live.
And it's in this one spot, and then as quick as it comes, it goes.
yeah.
We can't explain it. And it just doesn't happen to me. It'll happen to Paul, and it's happened to Mike, the guy that started going with us a couple years ago.
Yeah,
All three of us.
we have the same thing here where kids, like my kids were heavily involved in sports in high school. So all their friends hung out here because they were all in town in the city, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. We have like an acre of land, so they would all come out here, have bonfires and barbecues, and they would literally, like, at one time all the boys wanted to sleep out on the trampoline.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, no problem. And now these are big football players, big tough guys, you think.
Yeah.
Then it was like an hour later, they all came running down the house because they're like, something's up there, man. Something's
Yeah.
up in those woods. And I'm like, all right, just find a place to sleep. I don't care.
Yeah.
But so I know it's not just me.
Right.
It's not just me experiencing or being paranoid, as my husband likes to say.
Yeah.
Because I do. Like I said, when you've been involved, like I'm 30 years an investigator. Well, it's actually like 32 years I've been investigating. So I've seen and had things happen that I don't know how to explain. And like I said, I've been knocked down, I've been scratched, I've had my hair pulled, I've had things take over me and speak through me.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I don't take chances anymore.
Yeah.
I'm too old to take chances now. I tell people if I fall down or get pushed down by something now, I'm going to break bones. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to share your Facebook page in the comments of the podcast and also on the YouTube so people can come check you out. before I close out, is there any advice that you guys can give to someone that's just getting started in the cryptid field?
Go out there with an open mind. You got to be open. If you go out there expecting to see or thinking that it's a big joke or whatever, you're not going to experience anything. Go out with an open mind and listen to the woods and listen and just sit and enjoy it. It'll come.
Thank you so much. And like I said, I really appreciate you guys coming. I'd love to have cryptid talk. I get a little bit tired of all the paranormal all the time. So thank you so much. And I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure and check out our merch store at Bonfire. We are a Bonfire verified creator. Link will be in the description.